train was late again, but for the first time in months, I didn't mind. I'd been making this commute from Riverside to downtown Milwaukee for 3 years, and somewhere along the way, I'd stopped noticing things. The morning announcements became white noise. The faces around me blurred together. Even my reflection in the train window looked like a stranger. Tired eyes, permanent frown lines, shoulders that carried too much weight. It had been 6 months since Sarah died, 6 months since the house felt too big and too quiet, 6 months since I genuinely smiled at anything that wasn't required for work presentations or polite elevator conversations. My therapist, Dr. Brennan, said, "Grief takes time, that losing a spouse changes you in ways you can't predict." But I hadn't expected to lose my ability to find joy in small things, beat the way I used to. Sarah had been the one who noticed everything. She'd stop mid-sentence to point out a particularly fat robin or the way afternoon light hit our kitchen window. "Look, David," she'd say, tugging my sleeve like an excited child. "Look how beautiful that is." I'd always smiled and agreed, but honestly, half the time I was humoring her, too focused on work emails or weekend plans to really see what she saw. Now I'd give anything to have her tug my sleeve one more time. The morning radio played in my kitchen, but I'd stopped hearing the music months ago. It was just noise to fill the silence where Sarah's humming used to be. She'd hum while making coffee, this little tune from a commercial that had gotten stuck in her head years ago. I kept the same station on, the oldies one she'd loved, but the songs were just background static now. Even my taste buds had gone numb. Coffee was just hot, breakfast was just fuel, nothing had flavor anymore. It was like someone had turned down the volume on my entire life. That Tuesday morning started like every other. November in Milwaukee meant darkness at 6:30, and the platform lights cast long shadows across the wet concrete. The air smelled like rain and diesel fuel, with undertones of someone's too strong cologne and the faint aroma of fresh donuts from the cart that wouldn't open for another hour. I stood in my usual spot, third bench from the stairs, close enough to board quickly but far enough from the crowd. My coffee had gone cold in my travel mug, but I sipped it anyway, more out of habit than desire. The regular cast of commuters surrounded me. There was briefcase guy, who always stood too close to the yellow line. The college student who never looked up from her textbook, highlighter poised like a sword. The construction workers who congregated near the vending machines, their laughter too loud for the early hour but somehow comforting in its consistency. I knew them all by sight, but not by name. We were strangers who shared a schedule, nothing more. The delay announcement crackled through the speakers. 15 minutes due to signal problems near Brookfield. A collective groan rose from the platform. I pulled out my phone to send another apologetic email to my assistant, Rebecca, who was probably already at her desk, reorganizing my calendar with the efficiency of a military strategist. That's when I heard it. A small voice, maybe 4 or 5 years old, cutting through the morning gloom like sunshine through storm clouds. "Mommy, look! The puddles are making rainbow circles!" I glanced over despite myself. A little girl in a bright yellow raincoat was crouched near a puddle, pointing at the oil slick, creating iridescent swirls on the water's surface. Her rain boots were pink with white polka dots, and her dark hair escaped from beneath her hood in springy curls. Her mother, looking harried with a diaper bag on one shoulder and a baby carrier on the other, was trying to pull her away from the puddle's edge. "Sweetie, please don't get your shoes wet. We need to stay clean for daycare." The mother looked young, maybe early 30s, with the kind of tired that comes from interrupted sleep and solo parenting. Her coat was practical brown, spattered with old stains that could have been baby food or coffee or both. The baby in the carrier was fussing, tiny fists waving in the air, adding to her visible stress. But the little girl wasn't listening. She was mesmerized, tilting her head this way and that, watching how the colors shifted and danced. "It's like the puddle ate a rainbow and now it's showing it to us." Something about her pure wonder made me pause. When was the last time I'd noticed something beautiful in something so ordinary? I found myself watching her explore, her tiny finger hovering just above the water, tracing the patterns in the air. She was narrating her observations in that stream of consciousness way young children do. "See, Mommy? The purple part looks like a butterfly wing, and that green part is like a dragon scale. Oh, when I move my head, it all changes. It's magic water. Can I take a picture of it? She asked her mother. For show and tell, Miss Patterson said we could bring pictures of nature, and this is nature, right? It's water and light being friends. Her mother sighed, clearly overwhelmed. The baby in the carrier had escalated from fussing to full-throated crying, and she was juggling too many things to manage a phone camera. She was trying to bounce the baby while holding the diaper bag steady and keeping one eye on her adventurous daughter. A pacifier fell from the bag, bouncing across the wet platform. I surprised myself by stepping forward, picking up the pacifier before it could roll away. "Excuse me," I said, my voice rusty from disuse. "I couldn't help overhearing. Would you like me to take a photo for her?" The mother looked at me, really looked at me, and something in her expression softened. Maybe she saw what I'd been seeing in the mirror lately. The hollow eyes, the mechanical movements of someone going through the motions. Maybe she was just grateful for the help. "Would you mind?" "That would be wonderful." She accepted the pacifier with a grateful smile, quickly cleaning it with a wipe from her seemingly bottomless bag. Emma's been excited about show and tell all week. This would really make her day. I knelt beside the little girl, who immediately started directing me with the seriousness of a film director. "You have to get really close, but not too close, and tilt it. See how the purple shows up better? No, not that way. This way." She demonstrated with her whole body, leaning at what seemed like an impossible angle. Her name was Emma, I learned, as she chatted away like we'd known each other forever. She was 5 3/4, very important to include the 3/4, and she was going to be a scientist who studied colors when she grew up. Or maybe a painter. Or maybe both. "My teacher, Miss Patterson, says scientists and artists are actually really similar," she informed me, adjusting my phone angle with her small hands. "They both look at things really carefully and try to understand them. Do you look at things carefully for your job?" I thought about my work as a financial analyst, staring at spreadsheets until the numbers blurred together. "Not the way you do," I admitted. "My daddy says you can be lots of things," she continued, apparently unbothered by my non-answer. "He's a teacher, and he makes the best pancakes, and he can juggle. Can you juggle?" I found myself chuckling, actually chuckling. The sound surprised me, rusty and unfamiliar in my throat. "No, I never learned how." "That's okay," she said, patting my arm with her small hand. Her touch was sticky, probably from breakfast, but somehow comforting. "You're really good at taking pictures of puddles. That's something. Everyone's good at something. Mommy's good at singing lullabies and making hot chocolate with exactly the right amount of marshmallows." We took several photos, each one requiring careful consideration of angle and lighting, according to my small art director. She made me take at least 15 shots, insisting that each one captured a different mood of the puddle. Other commuters walked around us, some irritated, some amused. One elderly man stopped to watch, smiling behind his newspaper, but for those few minutes, I was completely absorbed in Emma's world, where puddles were magical, and every angle revealed new wonders. "Do you see how it looks like a peacock feather from this side?" Emma asked, her face inches from the puddle. "I saw a real peacock at the zoo once. It was showing off for the girl peacocks walking back and forth like this." She stood up and demonstrated, strutting along the platform with exaggerated importance, her yellow raincoat flapping like tail feathers. "Emma, we should let the nice man get back to waiting," her mother said gently. The baby had calmed down, now contentedly sucking on the retrieved pacifier, and I noticed how young the mother looked, probably managing morning chaos alone. There was no wedding ring, and the careful way she rationed her smiles suggested someone who'd learned to be careful with her energy. "Wait!" Emma dug into her tiny backpack, which was shaped like a ladybug and had clearly seen better days. One of the spots was held on with duct tape. She pulled out a sheet of stickers, the edges worn from being carried around. They were the kind kids get at the doctor's office. Smiley faces, stars, and rainbows, slightly bent but still bright. She peeled off a rainbow sticker with great ceremony and held it up to me. "This is for helping. You can put it on your phone or your coffee cup or anywhere you want to remember the puddle rainbow." I accepted the sticker with more reverence than I'd handled million-dollar contracts. The edges were slightly bent from her enthusiastic removal, and it had a tiny fingerprint on one corner. Perfect. Thank you, Emma. This is perfect. She beamed at me, then seemed to consider something, her forehead scrunching in concentration. You looked sad when we got here. Are you still sad? Her mother started to apologize, her face flushing. Emma, honey, that's not polite to ask, Beat. But I held up my hand. The honest innocence of the question deserved an honest answer. And something about this little girl in her yellow raincoat made me want to be truthful in a way I hadn't been in months, not even with Dr. Brennan. You know what? I'm less sad than I was, I told her. You helped me remember that there are beautiful things everywhere, even in puddles on rainy mornings. Emma nodded sagely, like this confirmed something she already knew. Mommy says when you're sad, you have to look for the good stuff. It's always there, but sometimes it's hiding. Like when we lost Whiskers. That's our cat. And I was really sad, but then we found him under the bed, and I noticed how the dust bunnies under there looked like tiny clouds. So even when I was sad about Whiskers being lost, I found cloud bunnies. The train's headlight appeared in the distance, cutting through the morning gloom like a lighthouse beam. I could feel it before I saw it, the rumble through the platform concrete, traveling up through my shoes like a gentle earthquake. Then came the sounds, the ding, ding, ding of the crossing gates 2 blocks away, the whoosh of displaced air pushing yesterday's newspapers into a brief dance along the platform edge. As it pulled in, the door chimes played their 3-note song, and somewhere behind me, the platform heaters clicked on with a soft whir, fighting a losing battle against the November cold. Emma turned back one more time, tugging free from her mother's hand. Don't forget to look for rainbow puddles, she called out, having to shout over the train noise. They're everywhere if you remember to look, and cloud shapes, and sometimes leaves that look like hearts, and shadow puppets on the wall, and... Her mother gently guided her toward the train doors, but Emma kept listing beautiful things over her shoulder until they disappeared into the crowd. We ended up in different cars, and I settled into my usual window seat, 3rd row back, left side. But something was different. Instead of immediately pulling out my laptop to review a client presentation, I looked out the window, really looked. The rain had created patterns on the glass, and the city lights beyond fractured into tiny stars through the droplets. Each streetlight became a small sun with rays shooting in all directions. The graffiti on the passing walls wasn't just vandalism. Some of it was actually quite beautiful, full of colors and energy. When had I stopped noticing these things? I stuck Emma's rainbow sticker on the corner of my phone case, where I'd see it every time I checked my emails. It was already starting to peel at one corner, but that somehow made it more precious. Real things, used things, loved things, they show wear. The workday passed differently too. During my morning meeting, I found myself gazing out the conference room window, watching pigeons perform an aerial ballet around the building's ledges. My colleague Marcus asked if I was feeling all right, and for once, I said yes and meant it. During my lunch break, instead of eating at my desk while scrolling through reports, I walked to the small park across from the office. The rain had stopped, but puddles remained. And yes, there were rainbow slicks in some of them. I even took a photo, thinking of Emma's show and tell. An older woman walking her dog noticed me photographing the ground and asked if I'd lost something. When I explained I was capturing the oil rainbow in the puddle, she laughed, not mockingly but with delight, and told me her grandson did the same thing. We talked for 10 minutes about the way children see the world, and she showed me photos of her grandson's rock collection, each stone a treasure with its own story. That evening, waiting for the train home, I found myself looking for them, the mother with the yellow raincoat daughter. They weren't there, and I realized they'd probably been heading somewhere else, not regular commuters like me. But other people were there, really there, not just bodies taking up space. A teenager sharing earbuds with his friend, both bobbing to the same beat, occasionally bursting into silent laughter at some private joke. An elderly man feeding breadcrumbs to bold city sparrows, talking to them like old friends. There you go, Herbert. Save some for Mildred, you greedy thing. A woman reading a book to her son, doing different voices for each character, complete with sound effects that made him giggle uncontrollably. How long had I been walking past life happening all around me? Over the next few weeks, I made small changes. I started leaving 5 minutes earlier, giving myself time to get coffee from Diego, the cart vendor who always smiled and remembered not just my order, but asked about my weekend, my health, if I'd caught the Bucks game. His coffee wasn't as good as the shop's, but his "How's life treating you, my friend?" was worth the lower quality brew. I began noticing things, the way morning frost made patterns on the station windows like delicate lace. How the same group of construction workers always shared their breakfast sandwiches, making sure the skinny new kid got extra. The station musician who played violin on Thursdays, her case open for donations but her eyes closed, playing for the sheer joy of it. The way people unconsciously swayed to a rhythm connected by invisible threads of melody. I even started talking to people. Nothing major, just small conversations. "Cold morning, isn't it?" Became, "That frost pattern on the window looks like a forest, doesn't it?" Instead of just noticing someone's scarf, I'd say, "Your scarf is beautiful, hand knit? My wife used to knit." And found I could mention Sarah without the words choking me. 3 weeks after meeting Emma, I was standing in my usual spot when I heard a familiar voice. The Puddle Rainbow Man. There she was, yellow raincoat bright against the gray morning, dragging her mother toward me. This time, her mother looked less harried, and she smiled warmly. The baby carrier was absent. Grandma's day, I learned later. And she moved with the lighter step of someone getting a rare break. "She's been asking about you," she said, laughing as Emma practically vibrated with excitement. "Every morning she asks if we'll see the Puddle Rainbow Man. I'm Jennifer, by the way. I realized I never introduced myself properly last time." "David," I said, shaking her hand, "and I've been hoping to run into you both again." "Did you find more rainbows?" Emma demanded, already reaching for my phone. "I told my whole class about you. Miss Patterson said I could do my show and tell about puddle rainbows and how they're everywhere if you look." "As a matter of fact," I said, pulling out my phone, "I have a whole collection now." Emma scrolled through the photos with delight, commenting on each one with the expertise of a seasoned art critic. "Oh, this one's really good. It has purple and gold. And this one looks like a tiny galaxy. Did you know that galaxies are just really big puddles of stars?" But then she looked up at me with those serious 5 3/4-year-old eyes, studying my face like she was checking her work. "You don't look as sad anymore," she announced with satisfaction. "You know what, Emma? I'm not," I said, and meant it. "You taught me something important about looking for beautiful things. I'd forgotten how to do that." She considered this, then reached into her backpack again. This time, she pulled out a small painted rock, maybe 2 inches across. It was covered in colorful swirls, clearly her handiwork, with what might have been flowers or possibly octopi. It was hard to tell, but the enthusiasm was clear in every brushstroke. "I made this in art class," she said, pressing it into my hand. The paint was thick in some places, showing her determination to get the colors just right. "It's a rainbow rock. You can keep it on your desk and remember to look for good stuff even when you're at work. Miss Patterson helped me put the shiny stuff on top so it won't come off." Later that week, Emma made me a whole stack of rainbow cards with her mother's help. "For other sad people," she explained solemnly, handing me the small bundle tied with yarn. Each one had a rainbow painted on it and words in careful kindergarten printing. "Remember to look for good stuff." Her mother and I chatted while we waited for the train. She was a graphic designer working downtown while juggling daycare and her mother's medical appointments. Her ex-husband lived in Phoenix now. Emma's dad taught 4th grade there, FaceTime every Sunday, and still made those famous pancakes when he visited monthly. We discovered we were often on the same evening train, just in different cars. She told me about Emma's obsession with colors and patterns, how she'd been that way since she was tiny, arranging her blocks by shade and getting upset if her crayons weren't in rainbow order. By the time the train arrived, we'd exchanged numbers and made plans to meet for coffee the following week. Emma insisted I come to her show and tell sometime to see how the puddle photos turned out. "She never invites anyone to school things," Jennifer said quietly while Emma ran ahead to press the door button. "You made quite an impression." That was 8 months ago. Jennifer and I became friends, the kind who understand that life can be heavy but also beautiful. We meet for coffee every few weeks, sometimes with Emma, sometimes just the two of us, talking about everything from single parenting to grief to the best spots in Milwaukee for rainbow puddle hunting. She's become like a sister to me, someone who gets it when I say I had a heavy Sarah day, or when I tear up because I found Sarah's grocery list in an old coat pocket. Jennifer never tries to fix it or move past it. She just sits with it, the way good friends do. Emma is now 6.5, very insistent on the half, and she's taught me to see wonder in everything from pine cones, did you know they're like tiny wooden flowers, to parking meters, they're like robot flowers that eat quarters. She made me a beautiful things journal for Christmas, insisting I write down one beautiful thing every day. The first page has her handwriting, from Minard David, who helps me take pictures and notices things. The rainbow rock sits on my desk next to a photo of Sarah, and somehow that feels right. Joy and grief can coexist, I've learned. You just have to remember to look for the puddles that hold rainbows. Sarah would have loved Emma, would have been delighted by her enthusiasm for small wonders. Sometimes I tell Emma stories about Sarah, how she used to name the birds that came to our feeder, how she could find four-leaf clovers like magic, how she once spent an hour watching a spider build its web, narrating its progress like a sports commentator. She sounds like she was good at noticing things, Emma said once, very seriously. I think she would be happy you're noticing things again. Out of the mouths of babes, last week I was rushing to catch the early train when I saw a man standing alone on the platform. He had that look, the one I recognized from my own reflection months ago. Shoulders curved inward like parentheses around an empty space, eyes focused on nothing, holding his coffee like it was an anchor in rough seas. His suit was expensive but wrinkled, like he'd stopped caring about appearances. There was a pale line on his ring finger where a wedding band used to be, but it was more than that. It was the way he stood perfectly still while everyone else moved around him, like he was a rock in a stream. The way he didn't flinch when the train horn blared. The way he held his phone but wasn't looking at it, just gripping it like he was waiting for a call that would never come. I knew that stance. I'd lived in that stance. The numbness that makes you feel like you're watching life through frosted glass, there but not there, breathing but not alive. I almost walked past. Old habits. But then I noticed the oil-slick puddle near his feet, catching the platform lights in swirls of blue and gold and purple. It was particularly spectacular, like a miniature aurora borealis had decided to take up residence in the dirty water.
"Excuse me," I said, and he looked up, startled. I pointed at the puddle. "I know this might sound strange, but have you ever noticed how puddles can hold rainbows?"
He looked at me like I was crazy for a moment, then down at the puddle. Something in his expression shifted, just slightly. A crack in the armor of grief, maybe. A tiny space for light to get in. He tilted his head, and I saw the moment he actually saw it. The colors swirling and shifting, beautiful in spite of or maybe because of their unlikely home. "Actually, yeah," he said quietly. "I guess they do. My daughter used to." He stopped, swallowed hard. She used to love stuff like this. I handed him a card from my wallet, not a business card, but one Emma had made for me with her mother's help. It had a rainbow painted on it and words in careful kindergarten printing. Remember to look for good stuff. She'd made me a whole stack, insisting I might meet other sad people who needed reminders. A very wise 6.5-year-old gave this to me when I needed it, I said. Maybe you need it today. The train arrived before he could respond, but I saw him tuck the card carefully into his pocket. As I found my seat, I caught a glimpse of him through the window, standing by the puddle, head tilted slightly, watching the colors swirl. He was still there when the train pulled away, and I hoped he'd find what I'd found. That beauty doesn't disappear when we're grieving. It just waits patiently for us to remember how to see it again. Some days I still miss Sarah so much it takes my breath away. Some mornings are harder than others, but Emma taught me something that no amount of therapy or self-help books could. That wonder isn't childish. It's human. It's what connects us to each other and to the world around us. It's what makes life bearable when it threatens to break us. I catch myself smiling when I see rainbows in puddles now. Really smiling. The kind that starts from somewhere deep and works its way out. like light breaking through clouds, like colors swirling in water, like finding beauty in the most unexpected places.
And I always look for the puddles.
The rainbow sticker on my phone case is peeling more now, one whole corner curled up like it's waving hello. I could replace it. Emma's offered me new ones dozens of times, but I like it this way, worn and imperfect and real. A reminder that the best things in life aren't pristine. They're lived in, loved on, and still beautiful because of it, not in spite of it.